What are your thoughts on Valentina? Obviously, she got a bye through to the final. Do you think she's ready to handle yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take every opponent serious. I didn't get to see a fight in the last round. She got a bye, but and I haven't watched her first fight either, to be honest. So I'm just gonna go in there and expect a tough fight and see what happens. But I'm looking forward to just getting in for the last time this year. And yeah, it's not been long since the last one, so it's nice for me to stay busy and get straight back in again.
This is your third fight. This will be your third fight since March. Have you enjoyed keeping busy?
Yeah, I would have. To be honest, last year I had four, I think, four fights. So I do like to stay busy anyway. The break between the March fight and the September one was probably a little bit long for me, but I suppose it gave me a bit of a time to live my life a little bit, and do some training that's a little bit more relaxed rather than being in camp all the time. But yeah, I do like to stay busy normally, so I'm totally fine with the quick turnaround for this one.
That PFL event in Paris, that was wild. I didn't get the chance to go over. I watched it on the TV, but it seemed absolutely incredible. Can I ask, was Kylian Mbappe in the crowd when you were fighting?
I don't, was he there for mine? I don't 100% know because I didn't know he was there until afterwards. So I'm not sure, but I actually asked for a photo afterwards and everyone was like, oh, the security guards won't let you anywhere near him. So I
Seriously.
didn't get to have a little fangirl moment, but hopefully he was there to watch me. I'm not sure he was though.
That's quite incredible. I'll tell you what, so obviously you follow all the PFL content going on social media, and as soon as Kylian Mbappe turned up, I mean, absolutely exploded. Hundreds of thousands of likes, of views, and whatever. Like, it just shows you like one individual could make a massive difference, couldn't they?
Yeah, and since the event and obviously going viral that he was there, I think people have been saying like it's the biggest superstar to ever actually attend an MMA show like that. So for PFL to have pulled that off is absolutely amazing.
Speaking of superstars, I noticed you started a YouTube channel. I
Yeah,
was wondering, would you be able to tell us your thinking behind it? Is this all about obviously people like Paddy the Baddy? It's all about building a brand as well as being good at fighting. You obviously have to kind of build your own marketing, your own brand as well, right?
yeah, definitely. That's part of it for sure. I think that's just where I don't know, a lot of the attention is at the moment around YouTube. And I think people have always really, really been interested in like, even on Instagram, my stories have always got like loads of views every time I post like my family or my brothers or anything like that. People are always laughing at like, things we do because I'm not one of them people who makes my Instagram dead perfect. I like to show like funny stuff and what me and my family are doing. And, people have always said to me, you should create a YouTube. So it's been something that I wanted to do for like a really long time now. And I think just over the years, like I want to create a YouTube channel now that's kind of really raw and shows like the hard times as well as the good times. And I feel like that's kind of what I would have liked to have had the last few years, of being in this sport, somebody to on YouTube show like the tough times that they're going through and just know that I'm not alone. And I've actually had quite a few messages from my first three videos. I've had a few messages of people saying how relatable just a few things I've said on there is already. So, yeah, that's kind of what I want to keep going with, show a little bit of, my life outside the sport and just be a bit of entertainment for people to watch.
I've noticed when I was going on the train back home today, I watched the videos just as a sort of preparation for this. One of the things that stood out to me was when you started talking about social media and how you said you were quite old school and how perhaps you would prefer to be born at a time where social media wasn't around. I'm just wondering, do you think overall social media sort of a positive impact right now on society, or do you really think that we'd be better off without it?
A bit of both. I'm going to say there's good and bad to it, and that's why I do it because I obviously there is good to it, and that's why I'm, still trying with it and stuff. But I think mentally, for me, it's been tough. I just through my experience, like feel like there's a lot of expectations and pressures, and um, like I said, a lot of people look perfect on Instagram when really that's not how life goes. So that's kind of what's pushing me behind YouTube to show a little bit of the other side because I think people really forget, that what we see on the internet isn't always, what's happening. And I think mentally people get really caught up these days. And I feel like it does get worse each year, kind of people get worse and worse with the different apps like TikTok and stuff. You know, people on TikTok lifestyles, things people post are very fake, and if you get caught up in that mentally, it can be a bad thing. So I feel like, you know, there's pros and cons to social media, but I would have liked to have been in a time where I didn't have to worry about that. And I think for me as well, that my mum's always asked me this throughout my career. She's always been like, do you want to fight? Is this what you want to do? And I've always been one that, you know, I would fight if there was no crowd, just because I love to fight. You know, if I could make money and still fight without anything that comes with it, I would do it. But I feel like now it's getting to a point where people do it just for money and stuff, whereas I would like to be back, you know, where none of that mattered and we could just fight and be good athletes, you know. So but you got to move with the times, but that's just how I would have liked it. Yeah.
The reason why I was asking you about social media is because I chat to a lot of footballers and they get so much hate, so much stick online and direct messages and things like that. And they tell me, you know, that people have got too comfortable saying things online without any consequences. Or I think, as Mike Tyson said, without getting punched in the face for saying, you know, things online where they're a little bit anonymous. Do you get a lot of hate or criticism or people like that who trolls, as some would put it?
I get a few. I'm not one of the important ones yet that they want to troll as much. So I think I've definitely got that to come. And again, that's something my mum and my brother always say, you know. And I've noticed them saying it a little bit more, like even like now I've started YouTube and stuff, just to be prepared with what's going to come, you know, don't read comments and things like that. But like what you just said is exactly why, like in the older generation, I don't feel like anyone would write that. It was all kind of face to face. Everyone was so real. You know, there was no like hiding behind a keyboard or like behind a fake account, and people were just nicer in general. You know, there wasn't, I suppose I've never lived in that, you know, years ago, so I don't 100% know, but I feel like people were nicer people back then, just because, you know, everything was in front of each other. And now I feel like you have to like always be aware of kind of what someone's going to write and be prepared to get this hate that just isn't necessary, you know, but that comes with social media. So I feel like sometimes it can be a bit of a bane on your life, when all I want to do is just focus on training, getting better, and being a good fighter.
You know, one of the biggest stories in the MMA world the last few days has been the PFL and Bellator merger. I'm just wondering, as a PFL fighter, and you know, perhaps you speak to other fighters as well, do you talk about what's happening, you know, in the business side of the sport? Does that interest you, or are you focusing primarily on your own fighting career?
Yeah, to be honest, like I'm just focusing on kind of the present moment. I want to win this tournament, and then obviously I need to speak to PFL and see what their plans are. You know, when I first signed, the plans were for me to do the PFL Europe and then go on to the main season and do, you know, the full PFL $1 million tournament for my weight cap. But I'm not sure the plans are the same now. So then this whole Bellator thing, you know, maybe they're going to merge us a little bit. I don't know, but I just want to win this tournament and then see what happens with that. But the business side, kind of, I try to shut off from it. I shouldn't, but I try and just let my mum and my coaches and my brother kind of deal with the business side, because I feel like that stresses me a little bit and panics me. I like to just try and live in the moment and just train for what I've got in front of me right now and not worry too much about what's happening. You know, I've always just gone with the flow and made the right decisions at the right moment. So we'll see how it plays out for everyone with the PFL and Bellator. And it's a massive move what they've done. Congratulations to them for buying that. You know, it'd be interesting now to see what they're doing. I saw the poster about Bellator champions versus PFL champions, which I thought was quite interesting, would be quite cool. But let's see what happens. You know, you never know what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, I mean, I saw on social media some people that tried to match fighters and things like that from both organizations. One that really stood out to me was Cris Cyborg against Kayla Harrison. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Do you know, that's a fight Kayla's wanted for so long as well. And now it kind of feels a little bit like it's got to happen. You know, I think Kayla said before that Cris Cyborg has wanted too many things on her side. You know, like even Clarissa Shields, I saw a tweet not long ago about, you know, Cris Cyborg wanting everything to go her way, business side wise, you know. So maybe now Bellator and PFL together, that's going to actually finally happen, which would be an amazing fight for Kayla that she's wanted for so long. So I'd be excited to see that one.
Last one from me. I've been hooked last few Friday nights watching one championship, Muay Thai. I know you're from the Muay Thai background. I'm just wondering, why do you think Muay Thai around the world? I know it's huge in Asia, but around the world, why is Muay Thai not as popular as MMA or boxing?
Do you know, I don't know, because honestly, like, I think I've seen a lot of posts recently because one is now in Lumpini. Is it Lumpini Stadium they're at?
Yeah.
Yeah, every Friday night. And it's kind of a few of the fights have really like, took off and caught a lot of people's attention. I think people are starting to like think, why don't I watch this a little bit more now, But it's just not I think it's very old school, it's a little bit slower moving with the times. Um so I don't know, honestly I can't answer that, but when I moved over to MMA, that was kind of one of my reasons that I saw more of a career in MMA. Thai boxing, I didn't feel like was moving quick enough. And, I don't really know where I would be right now. Maybe I would be with one if I'd stayed in Thai boxing, but, PFL have done so much for me. Like they've built me up since I've been with them. Like I've been with them a year and a half and they've built me up into this big, like up and coming superstar. So I don't know whether I would have got that with Thai boxing. People don't catch on to, good fighters like that as much at the moment. I think as well, you only really hear about the guys the most, I think still. MMA is moving a lot quicker. The females are kind of getting a lot more of the attention, whereas in Thai boxing, I still feel like they're missing out on the females a little bit. It's more still with the guys. So that's my opinion on that. But hopefully it'll kind of keep pushing up, I do love Thai boxing. It'll always be my first love, the striking. So hopefully it'll match us one day.
I never really watched one championship before, a couple of months ago, but I'm absolutely hooked every Friday night. It's absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal.
I think since it's gone to Lumpini, like that was a massive thing that one have done, even though there's mixed reviews. I don't know whether you know much about the background in Thai boxing, but like Lumpini and Rajadam, they're like, really, really old school stadiums where like it's very traditional, and like even back when females weren't able to fight in the stadiums, it was only guys and stuff. So for them to like now have small gloves in a stadium like that has caused a lot of like, mixed reviews and stuff. So it's just showing how much times are moving, but they're still so like far behind. It's more about tradition, whereas in MMA now it's kind of just about making money and entertaining. So there's a lot more respect, I think, in Thai boxing still that's stuck, which I quite like.